right. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining me. So just wanted to mention real quick here. It's only a few people on here, but hey, if you're someone who was on here earlier, but well before an hour before, so before 8 a.m., if you posted your question between the last office hours and 8 a.m., you need to make sure to repost your questions because I start with questions that were asked up to an hour before. So go ahead and repost that if you are. But I will start here with Daniel M. Let me actually get this zoomed in so I can read it. Come on. There we go. All right. So Daniel M says, Morning Q. What would you guess is the number one reason for consistently hitting off the heel with my driver? And do you have a foolproof drill to correct this? I'm really struggling with this. Thanks. So basically, yeah. So there's all kinds of things that could be going on to make you hit off the heel. A main reason why people hit it off the heel is either because they are swinging too much from the inside, or their hips are kind of thrusting toward the target, or toward the ball in the downswing. Both of those things can be going on. It could be because a lot of times the thrusting of the hips toward the ball helps the club drop underneath. So let me explain that a little bit, and then we'll also talk about a great drill that you can do. It's not necessarily foolproof, but it should get you going in the right direction. So essentially, what's going on is when my hips are, instead of rotating, a lot of people will stand up when they're coming down the downswing for all kinds of reasons. But if you're standing up, now my hands are moving closer to the golf ball, and that's going to move the hosel closer to the golf ball, and you're going to end up with heel strikes. So that's a part of it. Now, a lot of times when you stand up, this club drops underneath because the hands raise up. When the handle raises up, that drops the head. So now this head could be working a lot from the inside. It may not be in your case. You could be dropping or lifting the hands, and the head could be dropping perfectly on plane. But sometimes it will drop underneath plane. And when you swing too much from the inside, basically that hosel or the heel is headed right for the golf ball. So that could be a reason as well. So the first thing that you should do, and I know this may seem trivial, but the first thing that you should do is intentionally try to strike the ball on the toe. Actually, really, really try to strike the ball on the toe. Line up the way that you normally would. If you line up with the ball in the center of the face, then line up there. But that's typically where I'd recommend lining up. But if you line up with the ball in the center of the face, then line up there, and then intentionally try to strike the ball off the toe. Now, what that entails would be maybe feeling like you are more in your heels as you're coming in, because a lot of times when you are thrusting your hips toward the target, you're getting out on your toes. So feeling like you're more in your heels and almost like you're backing away from the golf ball, almost like you're kind of coming back and you're sitting in a chair as you're coming down. That's kind of the feeling that you want to have as you're coming through. So you're more in your heels, almost like you're sitting down in a chair as you're rotating open, and that's going to help you get that. And not only is that going to help you rotate, but it's also going to help you to stay in your posture and not stand up and thrust your hips toward the target, taking away the space for your hands. So that'd be one feeling. And then also try to hit the ball on the toe. So you just got to exaggerate it as much as possible. I know it's difficult. I've struggled with this myself. I've had other students that struggle with this, especially if it's something that they've never done before. And you're not going to get it perfect every single time. But what I'd recommend doing is really try to hit it on the toe as much as possible. Now, what that will likely do is it will likely move the ball closer to the center of the club face. And then you got to keep doing that until you actually start hitting it off the toe. Once you start hitting it off the toe, then I would just ease off of the feeling a little bit. I wouldn't go completely back. I would just try to ease off the feeling. So instead of feeling like you're hitting it off the edge of the toe, maybe you feel like you're hitting it, an inch and a half toward the toe. Just ease off of that feeling. And then if you keep getting the result, you keep actually, the feel is real. You're feeling like you're hitting it an inch and a half off the toe, and that's the result. Then at that point, you can kind of consider yourself calibrated. But until then, really try to get that strike off the toe. If you strike it on the heel, you got to just exaggerate it anymore, even more. Sometimes, it's a hard feeling to do it because it's out of our comfort zone. It seems wrong. It seems counterintuitive to try to hit a bad shot in order to hit a good one. But what you're doing is you're essentially adjusting your feel to get the desired result that you want. So really, really try to hit it off the toe as much as possible. And if you still have it in the heel, move it even further. So that's what I'd recommend doing. Feel like you are more in your heels as you're coming through into contact, almost like you're sitting in a chair. And then number 2, try to hit it on the toe. If you work on those things, you'll more than likely get the ball off the toe, and you'll be able to ease off of it from there. All right, so go ahead and get your questions posted on there. Like I said, if you came on here, so Peter posted his question yesterday. We may go back to that. Actually, no, I answered that yesterday. Never mind. So I only got 2 questions on here. So go ahead and post them, and we'll get them answered. All right. So let me a little drink there. All right. So John C says, why do we want to swing from the inside to outside in the golf swing? What is the reason? So the reason why we want to swing into out, and you don't have to swing into out, perfectly on plane, on plane swing is good too. But if you swing a little bit into out, it actually helps you pick up a little bit of speed. Because so the way to kind of think about it is that the mass of the club is always going to want to line up with the force being pulled through. So if I'm swinging perfectly on plane, this club is in line, the mass of the club head is in line with the force that I'm putting into the handle. So if I have it just a little bit off plane, so a little bit from the inside, what will happen is that at the last second, as we're getting to the ball, we'll get kind of a slingshot effect because that club's going to want to fling and move toward the force. So let me kind of illustrate this. Clay actually has a great video, which I'll refer you to with more of an explanation. But essentially, imagine that this club on the ground here is the direction the force is going, okay? And if I have this club on the ground here, the mass of the head is over there. Man, you're not going to be able to see that. Let me try to angle that down a little bit more so you can see it better. All right. Might need to move this forward a little bit. Okay. Now we should be able to see. All right. So if this is the direction of the force, this club right here is the direction of the force, and I'm moving this handle in that direction of the force, what is the mass of the club head going to do? It's going to want to fling in toward the mass. So if you watch, if I do that, you're going to see it's going to see how it kicked in like that. You kind of hit my foot, but basically it's kicking in toward the center. That's what's going to want to happen. So when you're swinging from the inside, that's kind of happening right at contact, and it gives you a little bit of an extra boost in club head speed. Now you can overdo that. If you swing too much from the inside, you're going to end up, hitting the ball with a glancing blow. Basically, if you have the face square, and your path is 8 degrees into out, you're basically hitting it with a little bit of a glancing blow. So if my face is coming in square, the face is square, but my club's coming in like that, I'm hitting it with a glancing blow. And I don't want to be doing that. It's going to put like a snap hook on it, and it's also not going to be able to transfer as much energy to the golf ball. Typically, when you see people that are swinging a little bit from the inside, it's 1, 2 degrees, 3 degrees max is what you really want to do. And that's going to allow you to have that happy medium where you're coming in and your face and your path are pretty close to each other, within a few degrees of each other. So you're not getting that glancing blow. You are transferring a lot of energy into the golf ball. And you're also getting a little bit of that slingshot effect as you're coming in. That's giving you a little bit of extra speed as you're coming through there. So that's mainly why. And the other reason why is because, for a long time, it's all been about trying to hit draws, right? And I'll go ahead and get off the ground here. But essentially, we've always want to hit draws. We always thought of that as the most powerful shot. And in most situations, it is. A draw is typically going to be your best bet, because hitting a fade with as much power as a draw is difficult. It's possible, but it's difficult to do. So usually draws are more powerful than fades. And the reason is that when you're drawing the ball, the face is closed to the path, which means when the face is closed, it actually de-lofts the face a little bit. So if I were to take the face, let me actually take a marker here. If I were to take this face and then close it, this would actually, if I take it here and then I close it, see how the marker went down? It's more angled down. So that's what's happening when you close the face, it de-lofts it. Now, conversely, when I open the face, it adds loft. So see how that angle went up more? It's adding loft. So that's why typically fades don't go as far, because you're adding loft to it, which makes it not go as far. When you de-loft the ball, you're transferring more energy to the golf ball, so it's more powerful. So that's typically why people, you always have heard instructors say, the best thing you want to try to hit a draw. Now you see a lot of tour players hitting fades, like Dustin Johnson, Bubba Watson, JB Holmes, these long hitters that hit fades. So it kind of raises the question, like, why are those guys hitting fades so powerfully? And the reason is they're hitting, what we often call as a power fade. So what they're doing is they're actually getting more forward shaft lean on their fade shots to counteract the amount of loft that's added by opening the face. So they're still swinging from the inside. They're just holding the face open and then pushing the handle forward more to de-loft it as they're coming in. So they're able to get as powerful of a shot with a fade as they do with a draw. So that's basically how you do that. But that's more of an advanced way. We do have some videos on the website where you can kind of learn how to do that. We have several videos about the power fade on the website if you want to check that out. But the main reason why we want to swing there's basically two reasons, just to go over real quick, why you want to swing a little bit from the inside. One, you get that added little slingshot effect through contact that's going to add a little bit of speed from the club, from the force wanting to line up, from the mass wanting to line up with the force right at the last second. If you want to learn more about that, I would check out the why you want to swing off plane video. If you just go in the upper right-hand corner and search on the website, if you remember the website, go to the upper right-hand corner and you can search a lot of stuff on the website. We have videos on basically everything. If you're looking for something, go to that and search for it. But just search 2 words off plane and you'll find that video that I'm talking about where Clay explains it in a little bit more detail. And then the other reason is because swinging from in to out helps hit a draw. It's not guaranteed, but it helps you hit a draw. You need to swing basically in to out for the most part to be able to hit a draw on target. So draws are typically more powerful, which is why a lot of people say you want to swing inside out. If you want to learn how to hit a power fade where you're hitting a fade with as much power as what a draw has, search the words power fade, 2 words, power fade, the same way. There's 3 or 4 videos on the website where Clay talks about that. So I would highly recommend checking those out. All right. So it looks like we got another question up on here. All right. So Michael D says, Q, hi Q, I'm struggling with getting my hips turning through and I'm still mostly leaving my right heel on the ground. As a result, I run out of space on the through swing with various disastrous consequences. I've tried the step drill and others, but the problem persists. Are there any other drills you can suggest to help with those hips through the full finish? All right. So the biggest reason why I see people who struggle with getting the hips open at impact is because they're coming down steep in transition. So you'll want to video your swing from down the line and see if this is happening to you. And I'll show you exactly what that means. So if you're coming down steep, what that means is essentially if I'm coming down the downswing and I pause my swing when my hands are about basically at shoulder level. So about right here in front of my chest, about shoulder level. If this club is in more of a vertical position, what's typically going to happen is you're going to stand up And we talked about this earlier. You're going to stand up to raise the handle to help you drop the head down onto plane, because if you're coming down steep, your options are to either throw this club right down into the ground 2 feet behind the golf ball. Intuitively, you're not going to do that. Unless you're a total beginner golfer, you're just not going to do that. The other option is to swing way over the top, just to kind of continue to go over the top that way so that you can get to the ball. Some people do that. I would say that probably 25% of the people that are coming over the top or that are coming down steep end up coming over the top with it. The other 75% that are the players that have a feeling and understanding, they're reacting to the position of the club to get it to be on plane. And that reaction is what you're doing, which is standing up. Because when you stand up, the handle raises, the head drops, and then now that club's on plane. But the problem is that I've stood up. And when I stand up, I can't rotate my hips, and I'm going to throw the arms in front. So that's really the biggest thing there that's going on. So what we need to do is we need to get the club shallowing out. So when we get the club shallowing out, it allows us now I don't have to make any sort of compensation in the downswing. I've got this club where the butt end of the club at this point in the swing is pointing a little bit outside the golf ball or at the golf ball is fine. But I got my hands basically right in front of my chest here. If you're looking from this down the line view, you can see the right in front of my chest. It's not literally in front of my chest. It's not like this. But from the camera view, it's basically in the middle of my body here. That's a pretty good place for the hands. If the hands are out here and you're shallow, that's not good. And if the hands are way back here and you're shallow, that's not going to be a good place either. Typically, you want to be about right in the middle when you're looking from down the line. That's going to allow you to get that club, the butt end of the club, to be pointing a little bit outside the golf ball. So that's essentially where you're going to be. Now I can stay in my posture. I don't have to make any compensation. This club is essentially on plane already, and I can just rotate into contact. So that's the first reason. That's the main reason that I see. The other reason might be the way that you are used to squaring the face. So if you're used to come in and you're squaring the face by pushing this handle through. So if you look at contact, and I imagine you're seeing this, if you're not rotating your hips, you're most likely in this position at contact, right? No hip turn. You got your heel on the ground. You can't see my heel, but both my feet are firmly planted in the ground here, and I'm doing this at contact, standing up, arms fully extended. So from face on, it would look like this. I'm flipping through contact, but look at my hands. My trail wrist is flat, essentially, completely flat, pushing this club through. My lead wrist is cupping through contact. So it's breaking down, it's cupping. It's a little bit hard to see, but you can see that my wrist is in kind of a cupped position there. So that's how you're used to squaring the face. Now I have a square club face, but I'm pushing this club through impact, and I have to do that. It's kind of a chicken or the egg situation. If you are coming down, if you're shallowing out the club and then you're coming in like this, it could be because you feel you're not rotating your hips and you're standing up, and you have to flip the club to get to the ball. And seeing as how that you've tried your hardest to get the hips rotating open, I would say that it's most likely this is the way that you square the face. So you are standing up to make room for that. That's more than likely what the case is. So once you get the club shallowing out, or if you're already shallowing out the club, then we need to learn how to square the face when we're rotating our body open and getting forward shaft lean. So if you look here, if I keep these same wrist angles, so flat trail wrist, broken down lead wrist, cupped lead wrist, and I were to just push that handle forward and I keep those same angles, look what happens to my club face. It's wide open. Intuitively, I'm not going to come in with forward shaft lean and a wide open face. I'm going to try and compensate to hit a straight shot right at the end, and I'm going to do that. That's what squares the face. So what we need to do is we learn how do we square the face when we're getting forward shaft lean. So if I go back to that same position where I'm coming in, same wrist angles, broken down lead wrist, straight trail wrist, and I have the face wide open, I have to square that face by turning the handle. So you see here, all I've done is turn the handle, and that's basically a throttle motion with both my wrists. So my trail wrist is, my right wrist here. I'm coming in, I'm squaring that face. That's doing this. I'm bending my knuckles back toward my elbow. That's wrist extension. That's what's squaring the face. With my lead wrist, I'm bowing it. You've probably heard that before. You've heard it's kind of a buzzword nowadays with golf, is bowing that lead wrist. So that's wrist flexion. That's bending my wrist so that my palm is kind of pointing down toward the elbow. So if I do both of those at the same time, if I line up the edge of this leading edge with the top of my lead hand, and I do both of those things, that closes the face. So that's what we need to be doing in the downswing to get that club face squared up, so that when we come to contact, now I have forward shaft lean and I have a square club face. The course to go work on that is the move. That's the course that you want to go work on this. That's going to help you get the club shallowing out. And even if you are getting the club shallow out, the second thing you got to do is square up. So it's really kind of two moves, but we combine them into one and we call it the move. And that's what you want to be doing to be able to get the body opening up, get forward shaft lean, get a lot of compression on the ball, be more consistent with it. So that's more than likely what's going on. You can get the best weight shift in the world, but if you're coming down steep and you have to make a compensation for that, you have to use that pressure that you're putting into the ground, that weight shift. You have to use that to stand up to make room for the club, because you have to get that club to come from the inside, or you have to use that to stand up because you're used to squaring up the face. So even if you're shallowing out the club, if you're still standing up, then it's because you're squaring the face by flipping it through contact. And in order to be able to make room for that club when you're flipping it, because my hands are a lot higher. So if I'm like this, I have no forward shaft lean, my hands are a lot higher. But look, when I get forward shaft lean, my hands are lower. So in order to make room for that club, I have to stand up as I'm coming through. Otherwise, if I don't stand up and I flip, I'm just putting that club right into the ground. And obviously we don't want to be doing that. So a lot of times what you're doing is you're reacting to where the position of the club, and your body is reacting to get the club in the right position. So if you get the club in the right position in the transition, the rest of the swing becomes a lot easier. And that's basically what all tour players are doing, is they're getting that club in a great position, they're shallowing it out, and they're squaring that face earlier to so that they can continue to rotate and stay in their posture and get forward shaft lean impact. So go to the move course and start working on that. Luckily for you, you're an all access member, so you can go straight to the move course and get started on that. All you have to do is go to the top of the page, click the house icon, scroll down on the home page. That's going to take you to the home page. On the home page, you'll see a list of all the courses on there. There's 20 plus in courses included in the membership that cover all kinds of things. I would choose that move course and get started shallowing out the club if you need to, and getting that club face squared up in the right way, and you'll start hitting much better shots. All right, so let's keep on moving through here. All right, so we got to scroll down. Looks like we got some questions that were posted in here. Awesome. All right, I'm going to continue drinking my drink here. All right, so John S. asks, how can I hit a draw? All right, so we talked a little bit about draws and fades and things like that a little bit earlier. But essentially, the way that you hit a draw, if you're just talking about what's going on at impact and the physics of what's going on, is the face, the direction the face is pointing at contact. So that's the direction the club face is pointing. So if I use this marker and put it on the face, that's open face, that's closed face. This would be square club face. Okay, assuming that the target is basically the computer screen right here. That club face needs to be closed to the club path. The club path is the direction the club head is moving. So the club face is the direction the club face is pointing, and the club path is the direction the club face is moving. So the face needs to be closed to the path. So the way to think about this, not sure if you're a baseball guy, John, but it's really easy to understand if you know if you understand what's going on a baseball field. So if I have a baseball field, I got first base is out here to the right. I got third base over here to the left. The way that you hit a draw is I'm going to swing the club toward first base, right? So my club, my direction is into out. We talked a little bit about into out swings. My direction is toward, my club path is toward that first base, but I'm going to have my club face pointed toward third base as I'm coming through. So, I mean, this is extreme. This is actually probably going to create a snap hook, but the best way to learn to hit a draw is to actually learn to really hook a ball. And then once you're able to get that, then all you have to do is ease off of that a little bit to get a nice draw. So I would go out to the range next time, feel like you're swinging the club toward first base, and the club face is pointed toward third, and you'll probably get some snap hooks. And then once you get that, then just ease off that feeling a little bit. So instead of maybe feeling like you're swinging toward first base, maybe feel like you're swinging toward where the second baseman would be standing, and then get the club face pointing to where the third baseman, or sorry, the shortstop would be standing. So it's going to feel a little bit more like that. It's just going to ease off of that feeling a little bit. So as you get better and better with it, you can kind of hone it in and get exactly what you're doing there. Now, some things that can make this easier to hit a draw or to get your path moving more toward first base is to maybe close your stance a little bit. So if I angle this down, if we'll put a club on the ground here, this will be, let's say that this club on the ground is pointing right at the pitcher. So in order to close my stance and to help me swing more toward first base, I may end up standing kind of like this. So you see how my lead foot's here and then my trail foot's kind of drops back a little bit. That's going to help me to swing a little bit more from the inside. Another good feeling to have is in the beginning of the downswing is to feel like straight off of my heel here, there's a stake in the ground. So if I go straight off my heel, there's a stake in the ground, and I'm trying to hit the club head right into that stake as I'm coming down. That's going to help me get this club working from the inside. A lot of times when you get people in this kind of position, they get this closed stance, they still kind of swing. They swing over the top in the direction because they know the target is basically in line with the pitcher, but they're trying to swing in line with that target, and you're not going to be able to hit a draw when you do that. So you need to get the path working into out. So feel like from this position that there's straight off. So if there's a line going from both of my toes and in line parallel with that, there's a stake in the ground right here, and I'm trying to hammer that stake into the ground. That's the feeling that I want to have, and that's going to allow me to get this club working nicely from the inside. So that's the club path out, getting that out. Now we need to get that club face close to that. So we talked a little bit earlier about the move and how we're squaring up the face. We want to be doing that as well to get the face close. So feel like as you're coming down that you're turning this handle as you're coming down. So that's with this lead wrist. I'm turning it. I'm bowing it. This is wrist flexion. I'm really turning that to close the face. And I'm doing the same thing with my trail wrist. I'm bending it back, and that's getting that club face close. So you can see I'm bending it back. That closes the club face. So I'm coming in, and you can see I'm swinging out there, but my club face is closed as I'm coming through. The other good feeling to have is as you're coming through contact is to feel like the palm of your trail hand is pointing down toward the ground. So as I'm coming through here, I got to choke up on this so I don't hit my wall. I'm turning this handle down, and as I'm coming through, I'm getting this handle or my trail hand to be where my palm is pointing down toward the ground as I'm coming through. That's really going to help me close the face. Another good feeling to have is if I grab a ball here, I don't fall on my face. So if I grab a ball, is to feel like, if I'm set up to this ball here to hit a draw, okay, if I'm set up to this ball, I'm going to feel like I'm hitting the outside part of the golf ball. Because in order to hit that part of the golf ball, how does the face have to be? It has to be closed, right? All of these things, they're extreme feelings, but they're all going to help you to get that feeling of hitting that draw. Once you get that snap hook from the get-go, then all you have to, that you're capable of doing it, then all you have to do is ease off of that a little bit to get to where you want to go. So feel like you're hitting the outside part of the ball, and that's going to get that ball snap hooking. And then once you get more comfortable with that, then maybe ease off of that a little bit. Maybe feel like I'm swinging towards second base. Maybe feel like instead of the very outside of the ball that I'm hitting, kind of this part of the ball, if this is 6 o'clock on the golf ball, maybe feel like I'm hitting 4:30 on the golf ball, somewhere in that area, and that's going to ease off of that feeling a little bit. A lot of what golf is just adjusting your feeling to get the desired result that you want. This isn't the reality of what you're actually going to do. They're just feelings that are helping you exaggerate what you need to do so that you can achieve it. Because it's probably out of your comfort zone if you don't know how to hit a draw. So if you're hitting a slice, you're doing the opposite. You're swinging with your face pointed toward first base, and your path is swinging toward third base. So you got to just do the opposite to alleviate that. So hopefully that helps, John. If you want, there's a lot more videos about hitting a draw on the website. All you have to do, just search the word draw. One word, draw. In the upper right-hand corner, there's a little search box there. You have access to all of those videos on the website. There's probably 50 videos on how to hit the draw on the website. So if that particular sequence there, it's not resonating with you, not all drills are going to resonate with everyone. If you're having trouble putting it together, it might be good to watch a video, try something else. If there was one drill that helps everyone hit a draw, then we would only have one video on the draw, right? So sometimes things click with people in different ways. So you may need to watch a different video, but I would definitely try that out, because I like drills that go to the extreme, especially if it's well out of your comfort zone. It's better to go to the extreme with something than ease off of it, than to try to hit a draw little by little by little, especially if you're someone who's slicing, because what you're going to be doing is it's just going to take a lot longer time. If you go to the extreme with it, it's going to help you realize, oh, okay, this is the feeling and what I need to do. And now it's going to be a lot easier just to ease off of that. So best of luck with that, John. Come back and let us know how it goes. If you have any further questions, don't hesitate to ask. All right. So looks like we got a bunch of questions. Like I said, I'm going to do my best to get through all of these. But I can't guarantee. I have to go right at 10. So I may kind of go through your questions fairly quickly to make sure I answer them all. All right. So Bob L says, I think you have said that swinging early with the arms will cause casting. So if arms are passive in transition, at what point are you creating force with the arms? All right. So a couple of things. One, I want to mention that it can cause casting, but it doesn't necessarily mean it will cause casting. You can start down with the arms first and generate lag. Like I can go up to the top and go like that and have lag. Like I see that all the time. But oftentimes it does cause casting. If you come here, that first move down is with the arms. You're typically going to cast the club. Usually you're going to release the club early. So I would say the arms are not passive in transition. You're creating momentum with your lower body. You're still going hard with the arms. It's just that you're creating momentum with your lower body. You need to get the lower body going first, and that's what's going to help you to create that momentum. So you still want to feel like you're going at it hard with the arms, but you want to get that feeling, or that, not that feeling, but the actual sequence of arms first, or sorry, not arms first, but hips, torso, shoulders, arms. You want to have that going on as you're coming down, and they're all like a split second apart. So the arms aren't going to be passive. If you feel like the arms are passive, you're probably going to end up losing some speed, but it may not be the case either, because feeling isn't always reality, right? So if you're feeling like your arms are passive and you're getting great results, it's not really the reality of what's going on, but that's helping you to get your sequencing a little bit better. So basically what you need to do is you need to get that momentum shift to your lead side, get the hips going. The hips are going to get the torso going. The torso is going to get the shoulders going. The shoulders are going to get the arms going, and the hands, and then the hands are going to get the club going. And it needs to happen in that sequence for the highest efficiency. You can swing out of that sequence. You can have the kind of the shoulders going first, and then the arms and the hips are going. You can have it in that sequence, but it's not going to be the most efficient way. So there's actually a great video in the I believe it's in the straight line release section, where Clay talks about the momentum train. So basically what that is if you imagine you have one train, it's going 60 miles per hour. You take another train and you put it right on the roof of that one, and it's also going 60 miles per hour. Then you take another train and put it on top of those two, and it's going 60 miles per hour. So you have these three trains all stacked on top of each other, and they're all going 60 miles per hour. Well, that top train is only going 60 miles per hour relative to the train below it, but it's going 180 miles per hour relative to the ground, relative to the start point, right? So that's kind of what's happening in the swing. If I'm starting with my arms coming down, I'm taking the lower trains out of the picture. I'm not creating speed I'm not creating momentum with those trains. So you have to get the lower body going first, get the torso. Basically, your hips are that first train creating momentum, and then your torso, basically the separation of your hips and your rib cage. That's another train that's creating momentum, and then your shoulders are creating momentum. The arms are creating momentum, and then the hands throwing the club is the last. That's the last train. And granted, you're going to get most of your speed from the shoulders. 85%. You probably about at least 85-90% of your speed is going to come just from the shoulders. If I didn't rotate my hips at all, and all I did was just throw my arms in front, trying not to hit my glass board behind me. If all I did was just throw my arms in front, I could probably get 85% of my normal speed. Normally my driver club head speed is between 115 and 118. I could probably swing about 100 miles per hour just throwing my arms. But I wouldn't be able to swing 115, 118 unless I got my hips going first, and then followed by my torso, then followed by my shoulders, and so on and so forth. So the analogy that I said, where it was the 60 mile per hour train with the 60 mile per hour train, that lower train, it's probably more like 10 miles per hour. And then the train on top of that is more like 10 miles per hour. And then that last train, which is like the shoulders, arms, and hands and the club, that one's 60 miles per hour. So most of my speed is coming from that top train, but my momentum that I could create, the most efficient way to swing the ball. And it's also going to give you great swing mechanics. If you swing all arms, you're going to flip the club. I've never seen anyone be able to not rotate the hips and be able to get forward shaft lean, because you just don't throw the arms like this, and you're just not able to get that position. I've never seen anyone be able to do that. Me and Clay were actually talking about that recently, and he hasn't seen anybody be able to do that either. So that's, you got to get the body opening up as you're coming through, and that can only happen if you're getting a proper weight shift and getting those hips going first, and then getting the torso, and so on and so forth. So there's actually a great drill to work on this. It's called the step drill, and the best video for you is going to be the video how to start the downswing. It's in the vault section. You can get to it with your Top Speed Golf membership. All you have to do is go to the search engine in the upper right-hand corner of the page for the Top Speed Golf page, and just search one word, downswing. And I believe it's the fourth result down. You'll see how to start the downswing. There's going to be some yellow letters in the thumbnail. That's the one that you want. And Clay goes over the step drill in that video. What's good about the step drill is essentially what you're doing is you're starting with your feet together. You're starting that step as you're going back. That's getting your momentum moving forward. So that way, before you start with the arms, you're getting pressure into the ground, and that's what you need to start rotating the hips. And then that's when that sequence is going to start. You're going to get the hips going, the torso, everything. Once you get the hips going first, usually everything else is just going to fall in line naturally with that. So work on that step drill, getting to where you can get to your lead side and start coming around and building that momentum. Otherwise, like I said, you can get a lot of speed from your arms, but it's just not going to be the most efficient. You got more in the tank if you learn how to sequence properly in the downswing, and that step drill is really a good one. It's the best drill I know for doing that for sure. All right, so Cameron F says, occasionally I'm behind the trees and need to hit a low draw to get the ball moving toward the green. All right, so how do you hit the longest strong hook? So I talked about earlier, I only have about 20 minutes left, Cameron, so I'm going to kind of have you refer to the previous answer where I talked about hitting a draw, that's doing the same thing. I would just go to the extreme with it, swing out toward first base. Assuming you're right-handed, you're swinging out toward first base with the face closed, coming through contact. That's going to get the ball coming out low. Now, keep in mind, these shots are usually not going to go very far because if you're hitting a big old hook, you're hitting it with more of a glancing blow. So don't expect it to necessarily go as far as your normal shot. It's possible it could, if you're in conditions where it's super hard and firm, because this ball isn't going to get up off the ground very much. It may run out to how far you normally hit it. But if you're hitting it through tall grass, soft, wet conditions, it ain't going to go very far. So, ease off of it to get the ball up in the air a little bit more. But yeah, get that. You can close your stance down a little bit, play the ball a little bit back in your stance, and really try to swing into out and really try to close the face by turning the handle as you're coming through, and that ball will come out low. Some you're going to have to go practice, but it'll come out low for you. But keep in mind, it probably won't necessarily go as far as your normal shot unless it's like super hard and smooth and everything, and firm and short grass. All right, so Warren H says, cannot transfer my iron swing to my driver. Are the swings supposed to be the same? If not, what are the differences? So the swings are mostly the same. The mechanics of everything that you're doing are mostly the same. I'll tell you the difference between my driver swing and my iron swing is that with my driver swing, I'm more aggressive. I take a longer swing. I try to go for a little bit more speed. I get a little bit wider to get a little bit more stable because I'm more aggressive with that. And the other thing is that I try to stay behind my head behind the ball a little bit more and try to get a little bit more angled away as I'm coming through contact. The only real difference between what's going on at contact between a driver and an iron swing is with a driver swing, you want the club comes down and it bottoms out, and then you want it working up into the golf ball. With an iron, a shot that's hit off the turf, you want this club coming down, hitting the golf ball first, and then bottoming out. So usually you can do that by virtue of your ball placement. So make sure that your ball is basically straight down from the outside of your shoulder. So to kind of show you what that would look like, I'll angle this down. So basically that'd be straight down from my lead shoulder. Now, for a lot of people, that's going to be inside the lead foot. But if you have kind of a narrow stance, that's going to be more ahead of your lead foot. And if you have a very wide stance, that's going to not be quite, that's not going to be quite inside your lead foot. So keep that in mind. I like to do it in reference to the lead shoulder, right outside the shoulder. That's basically where you want that, because the club is typically going to be bottoming out right in your armpit, somewhere in that area. It's not exact. And, there are other variables involved that make the club bottom out more earlier or later. But typically that club is going to be bottoming out right in that armpit area, maybe a little bit inside there. So if that is the case, we want to give that club room to work up into the golf ball. So playing that ball to where it's outside your shoulder, that's going to allow you to have space to let that club work up into the golf ball. Now with an iron shot, I want that ball to be basically straight down from my lead ear. This puts it about a little bit ahead of the middle of my stance. And now if you see, as I'm coming into contact, see where my armpit is, it's right here. Basically, it's right in this area right here. So my club is allowed to make ball first contact, go down to the ground a little bit, bottom out, and then work its way back up into the release. So that's basically the main thing that's happening. So with the driver, try to get a little bit wider, maybe give yourself a little bit more stable base. Maybe be a little bit more aggressive with your swing. That's what I like to do. The reason why I'm more aggressive with my driver swing is because it's, the driver, we're trying to hit the driver as far as possible. Irons, we're trying to hit it a set distance. If I hit my driver 20 yards further, that's great. That's perfect. That's exactly what I want. If I hit an 8-iron 20 yards further, that's not good. I'm probably going to be hitting it, airmailing it over the green. So irons are just a little bit more controlled. You're really trying to get that distance right, but you're also trying to get as much distance as you can. So it's a little bit, it's kind of a little bit of making sure that you're taking as much of a, swing as you can while still having pretty good control. Basically, you want to have consistent backswing length with your with your irons. With your driver, you can be a little bit more aggressive, swing a little bit longer, and so on and so forth. But the main thing is down and through with the irons, up into the ball with the driver. If you kind of get that mindset, I think that will help you out quite a bit. And there could be some things going on. There could be sometimes people do different things with their driver than they do with their irons, just because the club is so much longer. I don't have a driver in here. I have it packed away. But your typical driver off the shelf is going to be 45.5 inches. I don't know how long this is, but it's probably in the area of 34 inches, something like that. So this is a wedge. So it's so much longer. It's a foot longer than pretty much all the most of the clubs in your bag. So, and it's usually got a different weight to it, and it's a bigger head. Psychologically, it's a different thing that's going on. So a lot of times you will do different things to make that happen. So that's what I would say is going on there. So keep that in mind whenever you're working on that. If you'd like help with that, then I would recommend using doing unlimited swing reviews or something like that, so that I can see exactly what's going on and may be able to help you. But without seeing your swing, I can't really know what's going on. But I would say I would look at your ball position. I would make sure that the ball positions are correct, and then if you know what's going on at contact, it can help you understand what you need to do. So down and through with the iron, up into the ball, let it in the club, bottom out, and then work up into the golf ball with the driver. So you might be sliding forward with the driver and hitting down on it, and that's causing all kinds of issues, which you don't want to do. Or maybe you're sliding forward and you're popping it up. So stay behind the ball a little bit as you still want to get that weight shift to your lead side, but feel like you're pushing back as you're coming through to allow you to stay behind the ball, and that's going to allow you to hit up on it through contact. So give that a try the next time you go out. But if you want me to pinpoint exactly what may be going on, you may need to sign up for unlimited swing reviews. I don't have any spots available right now, but if you click the Get a Review page at the top, if you're a Top Speed Golf member, you can join the waiting list. And then whenever I open up spots, you can get notified, and we'll let you know that you can sign up. All right. So Ed B says, please explain the body rotation from halfway down through impact. And does Clay have a video on the body rotation? So there's lots of videos on rotation on the website. All right. So please explain the body rotation from halfway down through impact as Clay's have. So essentially what's going on is, if we're going halfway down from here, typically at this point in the swing, when I'm halfway down, when I'm about waist level, my hips are already opening a little bit. Ideally, you'd want the hips to be opening a little bit to the ball. So if this is completely square at address and completely square at about the halfway down position, I probably want to be about in this area, probably about 10 degrees open. That's typically what you're going to see with tour players. So when they get to waist level, it's going to be about in this area, and the club is going to be probably about in that area when you're about waist level. So not quite the parallel yet. If you're already the parallel at this point when your hand's at waist level, you're releasing it a little bit early. You might be casting, or you might be generating lap, but just releasing it early because maybe you're standing up, or there's all kinds of things that could be going on there. But essentially, that's a position that you want to be in. So hips opening up a little bit, and the club not quite parallel to the ground. From here, you should be, if this is what the best players in the world are doing, or just good players in general. Your single 5-digit or not 5-digit, your 5 handicap and lower are typically going to be doing this, where you're turning the handle a little bit, you're getting that club face squaring earlier, and then from here it's going to feel more like body rotation as you're coming through contact. And I know from face on, it looks like my hands are really in front of my hips, but that's not really the reality of what's going on. My hands are actually going to be behind my belt buckle a little bit. My belt buckle is pointed out toward this way. My hands are right here. So my belt buckle is remaining ahead of that. So if you were to go, let's say we were to go like this, now I'm at a 45-degree angle to the camera here, and I'm coming in and I'm getting forward shaft lean. Now you can see that my hands, it's still hard to see from this angle, but my hands are not in front of my belt buckle. They're still behind it. So I think that's something that people struggle with, is they're trying to push their hands forward, but they're not rotating their body. So what's happening is they're throwing the hands in front. And again, I've never seen anyone able to get forward shaft lean, get the hands in front of the golf ball without the hips being open at contact. It's just not really physically. It's just not really possible. If you go super slow, you can do it, but that's you're not going really slow in your swing. So at full speed, I've never seen anyone be able to do that. So you got to get the body rotating open. And that comes from getting this club shallowed out, getting this club squaring up, having this club working down on plane in the downswing, allowing the body to open up as we're coming in. And again, your hips are going from about 10 degrees open to average tour player is going to be 40 to 50 degrees. So they're going to be going anywhere from 30 to 40 degrees open from that halfway down position. So basically, it's a lot of hip rotation that's bringing you to this point. And that's coming from pushing into the ground with that lead leg. So I'm getting that pressure going in the lead leg. I've got my weight shift going through the lead leg. I've got a little bit of bend in my leg here, and I'm pushing into the ground and straightening out that leg, and I'm pushing into the ground, down and out away from me. So the best way to kind of think about that is if this is 12 o'clock on my clock, this is 10:30 on my clock, I'm pushing down into the ground and then also straight out away from me. And that's pushing my hip back and out of the way. That's the feeling that you want to have. You almost want to feel like you're kind of, as you're doing that, like you're almost kind of sitting down in a chair, but straightening out your leg at that point. Another good feeling is to feel like maybe you're up against a wall and you're coming down and you're pushing your hip into that wall because you're straightening out that leg. A lot of times what people are doing when they're trying to straighten out that leg is they just push straight up. They just come into contact and they just go like that. So if you look at it from this angle, I'm coming into contact and I'm just going like that. That's not what we want to do. We want to be straightening out and pushing down and out away from it, pushing the hip, rotating it open. So hopefully that helps, but that's basically what you're trying to do there. All right, so Ed B says, please explain the body. Okay, so he said, oh, okay. Yeah, that's why I mentioned. All right, cool, Cameron. Thank you. All right, so a few more questions here. All right, so Warren H says, to achieve a big shoulder turn, does it matter that sequence the hips turn with respect to shoulder turn? Is it okay to rotate hips completely first, then rotate shoulders? So you're doing both. You don't want to do one. So you wouldn't want to go like a robot almost. I'm kind of picturing a robot, how that would work. So you wouldn't want to go like that and then turn the shoulders. You want to get the hips and the shoulders going at the same time. Now the hips are going to be rotating. Here's how the shoulders get to about a 90-degree turn. Well, actually, let's think in terms of, let's talk about where the shoulder turn comes from. And we'll talk in terms of a tour player, like a really good player. So 100, and this isn't going to be you might be a little bit different than this. Most amateurs probably are, but your average tour player, we're going to round the number. It's probably about 118, 119 with the shoulder turn, but we're going to round it up to 120 to make the numbers easy. So your average tour player, if we're going socket to socket at the top, shoulder socket to shoulder socket at the top of the swing, has about 120-degree shoulder turn. About 50 degrees of that is coming from the hips turning. So that's just in relationship to my feet on the ground, my hips are turning about 50 degrees away from that. So that's like this right there. My torso, so basically my upper spine, that's where that next rotation comes from. That's the separation of my hips to my rib cage. That's coming from your thoracic spine, the upper spine. The lower spine is pretty stable. There's not a lot of rotation, if any, going on there. It's almost all coming from the upper spine areas where it can twist. So that's another 50 degrees in a tour player. Now, you're probably thinking, okay, 50 degrees from that, 50 degrees from that, that's 100. You said 120. The other 20 degrees comes from the protraction and retraction of your shoulders. Your shoulders are pretty mobile joints. I can go like that with my shoulders. So protraction is where my shoulder goes forward, right? That's my shoulder blade moving away from my spine. Retraction is where my shoulder goes back. That's retraction. That's shoulder blade going toward the spine. So if I add all those together, I get about 10 degrees out of each shoulder. So that's 20, 50 degrees from my rib cage to my pelvis. That's 70. And then another from my pelvis to my feet, basically my ankles, if you think about it in that sense. That's adding up to 120 degrees. So that's where it all comes from. And you want to be doing all of those basically at the same time as you're going up. So as I'm going up, my shoulders are turning. My lead shoulder probably isn't going to start protracting until about right here in this area. It's not going to start in the very beginning, but once I start kind of getting up in here and my shoulders are slowing down, that's when I'm really going to get that protraction, and then I'm going to get a little bit of retraction from my trail shoulder as I'm going up to the top. But that's all happening at the same time. I'm not just turning my hips and then turning my shoulders. I'm doing all of those at the same time as I'm going up to the top. So keep that in mind. You want to get everything rotating, and that comes from putting some pressure into the ground, pushing into the ground, and rotating the body. All right, so a few more questions here, then we'll finish up for today. So Brad F says, I've been working on the move and I've increased my swing speed considerably. Oh, great. So I'm now hooking the ball 15 yards or more. The ball is starting on line. Any suggestions to fix this? So there's a couple things that could be happening. So you could be either overdoing the turning of the handle. So when you're coming down, when you're going down to square the face, you may be overdoing this, and it's just getting the face too closed when you're coming in. And I know you said it's starting out straight, but if your path is into out and your face is closing, then you could be getting that face too close to the path, and you might be basically getting that hook on there. So I'd maybe try easing off of the turning of the handle a little bit to get that straightened out. You could also be over shallowing it, so getting it too shallow. And when you get it too shallow, that club's working too much from the inside, and now again you're getting your path to your face is too close to your path, and you're going to get that overhook. So shallow it a little bit less could be going on. So I'd be just looking at your swing on video. If you look on video and this club is on plane, then it's going to be the turning of the handle. You're just getting the handle too close. If it's too far under plane, then shallow it a little bit less to get that worked out. Then lastly, it could be that you're actually flipping through contact. So remember, when you're turning this handle down, that's what squares the club face when you have forward shaft lean. That's the key. When you have forward shaft lean. If you don't have forward shaft lean and you're turning that handle down, all you're really doing is closing the face. So if you watch here, if I'm coming in to contact, I have forward shaft lean and I'm squaring the face. If I turn the handle down and I don't have forward shaft lean, I'm closing the face. That's extreme. That may not be what's going on because you said the ball is starting out straight. My guess is that you're probably over shallowing it, just swinging too much into out. But I would look at those things on video. See if you're releasing the club early, and make sure that you're getting the body opening up, trying to get that club to release more out in front. So that's what I would do to get that working out and get that on the right track. So check it out on video. See if you're over shallowing it. See if you're not over shallowing it, and see if you're squaring or turning that handle down too much. If that's not it, then see if you're flipping the club and work on getting the body to open up more and release more out in front as you're coming through. All right, so one more question here, and then I gotta get going. So John H says, Q, when playing a draw or fade, what is the simplest and most reliable method? Straightening or weakening the grip with a slight alignment adjustment. I'm improving my course management and wall off trouble side. My natural flight is a draw, and read Mr. Nicklaus's book, Golf My Way, and I realize what a great tool a fade can be. Thanks, you guys are awesome. Yeah, that's a great book. I got my copy right here. So yeah, that's a great book. Highly recommend that one if you want to check it out. Nicklaus did play a fade a lot when he was playing. It's a little bit easier to control typically than a draw. So if you're looking to, but the only problem is that you lose a little bit of distance when you do that. Nicklaus had a great amount of club head speed. So anyway, as far as lining up for a fade or a draw, the easiest way I think to do it is just to line up with your face at the target and then set up with your feet. If you're trying to hit a draw, you'll set up with your feet a little bit more close to the target. So basically my feet would be pointing to the right if I'm a right-handed golfer. Keep my face pointed at the target, and which would make me have a little bit stronger of a grip, and then play the ball just a little bit back in your stance. That's typically the best way to do it. There's no wrong way to do it. As long as your face is close to the path and the ball is going on target, that's the right way to hit a draw. There's a lot of people that do it in different ways, but I think this is the easiest way. The easiest way, I think, is point the club at the face, which strengthens the grip as you are turning your stance, and then play the ball just a little bit further back in your stance to help you hit it a little bit more from the inside. The opposite is true for a fade. For a fade, I'll line the ball up at the face. I'll take my stance when I'm a little bit more open. So right-handed golfer, my feet are pointing to the left. And then basically I'm going to be swinging along. I'm going to be holding off the face as I'm coming through to have that face open. And that's going to allow me to get that face open to the path as I'm coming through. So you can play the ball a little bit more forward in your stance if you want. But for a fade, I'm usually not a big fan of that because I like to hold the face off a little bit more for a fade, because if you play it further up in your stance, usually adds loft and it can make your fade weaker. So get to where you're just holding off the face. So not rolling over the face as much, holding off the face, and that can allow you to get a little bit more power with that fade. So, all right. Thanks everybody for joining me. We'll be back here not tomorrow, Monday, 5 p.m. Eastern time. Everybody have a good rest of your weekend, and I'll talk to you next time.